help propagate the human race is the sum of it. And it's not really particularly nefarious. They're just like, look, that's their whole principle. They're actually trying to acknowledge the problem of a paradox, the problem, and they really so much go to it that if you go back in time and you, as you said, you know, your grandfather doesn't meet your grandmother, well, then how do you exist? They're really very cognizant of that. So that's why they're choosing these moments. They know, like, okay, this is an incident where two planes hit each other, or this is an incident, but it's got Chris Christopherson, who's just kind of like, you know, playing like he's playing Chris Christopherson. Like he either is like just that dude, like he's either just that dude you really want to hang out with and hear him sing on the porch, or he's like the grizzled dude in Blade. Like there's only two roles he ever plays: himself or the dude.
How are they two different people? Because I swear to God, you just said the same person.
Yeah, he seems a little meaner in Blade, though. He does, like, you know, I don't know.
I would love to hang out with Whistler. Are you kidding?
Whistler is pretty cool. Whistler, and he refuses to die. So
going fucking bar hopping with Whistler?
That would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool.
At the very least, they're killing vampires.
Yes, you know, but to Millennium, I just really always appreciated that, because for the place and time it was, there weren't a lot of movies out there that ever addressed it. They kind of did in Back to the Future, but they make it a little bit of a joke with him, you know, with his son fading out. But I really liked a film that sort of tried to take the place of a short story. There's a famous short story by Ray Bradbury called A Sound of Thunder, which was amazingly sent up by The Simpsons. So I'm going to go to The Simpsons here, where Homer ends up in one of the Halloween episodes traveling back in time. The whole principle. Now, they made a movie of The Sound of Thunder, which was such it was such an abortion. It was just like, I can't describe it. I feel like Diane Keaton at the end. I feel like Diane Keaton at the end of Godfather 2. It was an abortion, Michael. You know, it was such a terrible film version of it. But the short story was just such the principle of what we've even here in the common vernacular, the idea of the butterfly effect, going back in time, affecting one butterfly, affecting the tiniest possible thing that you ever thought of, and it has such repercussions in the future. Homer, it's just great because he keeps running back and forth, and things get worse and they get better. You know, definitely worth looking up that Treehouse of Horror. But you know, realistically, it's one of those things like we think we want to, but really, do we? Right? Yeah. Especially going to the past, because, you know, all right, assuming it's all of us in this room, I know you know a little Creole. I know you know some Creole, Greg, and maybe some French, but, you know, past that, how far are English speakers really going to be able to go and understand a damn thing, right? Like, that's not gonna work out so well. Not to mention disease, you know, famine, you know, a multitude of other things that you'd have to prepare for, or at least try and understand. And I always just think of, you know, I would love, you know, there's part of me that would love to see sort of Civil War era American West, just to see, you know, how it matched up. But the truth of the matter is, like, the stink alone would be terrible, right? Oh, yeah. Just right. You know, one of those old West ghost towns. It's just, you know, and I always think about that. I always think about their teeth. That's always what I think about, right? Like, all through that, you know, I don't care if it's the saloon girl, Maid Marian, anywhere in these fantasies you have of running back in time and, you know, being the hero and doing whatever you would think you were going to do. Jesus Christ, the minute someone showed you their teeth, you'd be like, oh God, but oh no. It just, I can't now. From what I understand, I will say from the archaeological record, I got a friend who's a legit archaeologist and Egyptologist down at Tulane University. I hope to get her on the show one day. I'd love that, you know, to debunk the difference between Indiana Jones and reality. But from what I understand, there were fewer cavities than people think about back then, only because we didn't eat as much refined sugar. So it wasn't quite as bad. But still, I just got to imagine that it was a terrible, terrible thing. So that's the note I'm going to leave you on, is just I'm gonna go out and no on the teeth. That's all I'm gonna say.
Modern makeup was based off of arguably what a lot of people would think the French Revolutionary period. But the funny fact is that a lot of people didn't understand that a lot of the things that they had to do that made eventually became modern makeup or cosmetology is based because they had horrible water and no access to it.
Yeah, I mean that's where we get
Think
alcohol.
about that next time you powder your face.
Yes, right. Exactly.
Well, that actually, when you said that, the first thing, because something like I don't know what, it's probably up higher now, but something like 2/3 of insect species have died off, because a long time ago there were bugs everywhere. There were like swarms everywhere. Now, you walk down the street, maybe you'll swat away a fly or two, but back then you would run into a fuck ton more insects.
Yeah,
And I think if I could go back in time, yeah, I think I would definitely do that. I would just want to see things when they were new and in their prime.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. That's all I think I would want to do. I mean, if I could steal some gold and bring it back, but whatever. But
And you had to go time cop on us, didn't you?
right.
By the way, the water was horrible because people treated the streets like a goddamn shitter.
Well, yeah, and they shit where they ate, like literally.
It was an open sewer, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, on that cheery note, now we're talking about open sewers and shitting where you eat.
The world
you
is
see it for
your
yourself?
Oh, yeah. So what do you? So we have saved him for last here. We want the rant. We want the Mario star. We want to know his thoughts on time travel, whatever we're talking about.
I don't know if it's gonna be Mario Star, man. It might be like that moment the first time you got the raccoon, and you're just like, all right. I mean, I'm here for it. It's Mario 3, but I'm gonna need someone to walk me through why I'm a coon Mario, which was at first. And someone finally got to the boardroom like, hey, can we just look into this? Can we maybe monitor how we go forward with the nicknames and just kind of run through a few different.
One, Mario's a furry, and two, we don't kink shame.
That's not where I was going. Don't care about that part. It was a lot more to do with
Mario's a furry.
Sure, fine, cool. Yeah. Call him something.
You don't
call him something other than a slur. That's all.
Call him furry Mario. That's all.
Yeah, that's fine. That's absolutely fine.
Furry Mario. It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't. The funny thing with there's so many awesome points that have been made up. I really don't think the quote unquote Mario star is achievable. There's not a lot I can disagree with or agree with to the point of making a good point. I would say in so much a personal sort of journey through the thought process of the theory of time travel and why it's so fascinating to me. One started with like one of the first movies I can remember watching on my own repeatedly was Time Bandits. I thought it was hilarious.
Nice.
Amazing.
Right? It was so much fun. I mean, well before I ever saw, or actually it was after I saw Back to the Future, because let's be real, Back to the Future was a blockbuster hit. Similar to Ghostbusters, it was almost like required watching at certain points in the early 80s.
Definitely.
But like, HBO ran Time Bandits a bunch. That was cool. It's funny, Josh talked about how his mom reacted to the scene in Doctor Who and how she was like, get him to stop watching it. I'm not going to speak for all Black families. We're not a monolithic voice. I can't say in my family. My dad was like, oh shit, you're watching PBS on your own? All right, cool, we're good. All right. He's back out of the room like, I basically got fatherhood done with this kid till at least 12. This is awesome.
Fatherhood nailed it.
Yeah, he's like high-fiving imaginary people. I mean, he was at the top of his game when he walked into his bedroom where I got to watch TV, and he's like, PBS on your own? All right, yeah, we're good. No, I'll come back in like a couple hours. You're good. I was seriously a latchkey kid from that point on. I mean, my dad was like, "Yeah, you basically got the basics.
Yeah.
Watch out for cars in the street. Don't burn down the house. And yeah, we're basically there. He would leave me money. It was awesome. But anyway, so Time Bandits kind of always got it going. And we talked about all the movies. Although I would say the only time it made me really start to think about it in the sense of like, all right, this is probably something we should think about in a way that we don't always think about, but it'd be worth our while. And that would be the butterfly effect. I know it's weird because it was a horrible movie for so many reasons. You can even argue it would have been a decent movie if the lead actor was anyone other than Ashton Kutcher. And I'm not here to shit on the man. The guy's actually pretty talented in so many different ways. Sadly, acting not one of them. But point being is like, the movie wasn't horrible. Same thing with like Sound of Thunder. It was horrible in a lot of ways. But argue if they just like made a couple of decisions differently, like not the stupid ones, it
like
would
all of them, like every single one of them.
It would have been all right. I mean, there's so many bad time movies. Time Cop. I mean, how many different times can you watch Time Cop before you're like, all right, what are we doing here? Seriously, it took us to like the 2000s to start breaking down Back to the Future. Like, there's so many problems we have to unpack here. I mean, we have gone about time travel in so many weird ways that the reason why Butterfly really made me start to look at it differently in the first time, at least in my life, is that as Josh pointed out, and same thing with Greg, the actual effects of your actions if you were to achieve the same. Because spoiler alert, I actually do believe it's an achievable thing. And I'll get to why I believe it's an achievable thing. This isn't flat earth thing. Actually, my whole reason for believing in it to me proves it, but I'll get there. Also, I would also point out with Doctor Who, I think the reason why they so haphazardly move through time is because they've also pointed out that when they do that, they're also moving through dimensions. So technically, their actions aren't owed or they don't have to report to their actions. So I think that's sadly the truth of the protagonist in such a loved theme show that's so long lasting is actually your protagonist is a horrible galactic, in some cases probably life ending being who just loves to trounce through other people's timelines and dimensions as if they don't exist, which, well, again, I'll get to. But again, Butterfly Effect, Sound and Thunder, it started to make me start to look, as Greg has challenged some of our movie makers, to look at time travel more than just the plot device of going back in time to fix things. Frankly, I think one of the ways time travel could probably only work in a way that wouldn't affect reality in the way that we look at it is a way that would be almost impossible to regulate, if not impossible as the motion of time travel, is that it would only go forward. Because then you can argue that anything that you do in forward, there's still a possibility of not having the disastrous outcome. That being said, the communication somehow would have to be reflected in that person's present in some way, shape, or form. So a whole lot of conundrums. Actually, the reason why I believe in time travel is because of some of these movies, in the sense that a couple of things, and it's actually part of the reason why I believe in alien invasions, in the sense of one, it starts with our such arrogant view of how we understand existence. I just watched a web or a little web video on fucking Facebook. Yeah, the algorithm, whatever. They're like,
You said that out loud.
Yep.
Yeah.
Said that out loud.
I'll get to Netflix thing another day. Don't fucking take my time by getting me on a whole nother rant. Don't do it. Don't do it.
We need to talk about how you went from PBS to Facebook. Like, we got to talk.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of problems, and dude, my nickname's the Three Clubs. You don't think I got there by choice? That's just a series of life. I'm 41, bro. I got there by a lot of different ways. So, point being, watching this thing, it's like 10 things you don't know about the black hole, or things that'll surprise you. And they're basically just a bunch of different theories about the black hole. Why? Because it's an entity we don't really understand. The reason why I bring that up is because I think part of the fallacy of man, we can talk about religion, we can talk about the understanding of God, we can talk about everything, is we keep everything as far as existence and the scope of what we understand, regardless of the fact that we can always point back to a time in existence and say, at that point, what we have achievable now would be unimaginable. For example, we all walk around with a device that is sincerely the most powerful thing man has ever held that isn't a weapon in throughout existence.